This is Justin Stokes.
Hey, Justin, Ricky Phillips.
Ricky Phillips, how the heck are you, sir? Good morning.
I'm doing well, man. I'm bouncing down the old highway in the submarine of love here.
Oh, good lord.
It, it, you had like a 703-mile drive from where were we last night? Charleston to Biloxi, Mississippi, and we're still about an hour outside of Biloxi.
Oh, good God. And you're going to be in Nashville tomorrow.
Right.
That's crazy. I'm going to jump right in, sir. And I was going to say, just to be above board with you, I've done my due diligence with research, but if it feels to me like there may be some items missing from some of the interviews that you might not have gotten a chance to talk about. So if there's
Sure.
anything that you want to put into the dialogue, please feel free to do so. Because I'm going to kind of hop
Cool.
around, and if I miss anything, just feel free to shove it in there. So.
Yeah, man. No worries. Thanks for that. Cool.
For sure, for sure. Let's jump right in. I'm calling specifically about your Nashville show. You'll be with the Nashville Symphony with Liza Grossman conducting the Nashville Symphony to accompany your performance. What can you share about that specific show?
Um, to be really dead straight, I don't know a lot about the specifics other than that it's an outdoor show. We did perform last, during sort of an ice storm in Nashville in the winter. So we have performed with them before recently, but it was in the Opera House. So it won't be quite as controlled of an environment. I think it'll be cool. We've got some really great arrangements to the songs. The Styx material really lends itself to an orchestra accompaniment, and it's nice to hear. There's some embellishments that some of the arrangers have done with the orchestration to kind of add this very, very hip but classic sounding dimension to the music, and it's very cool. I think people will be pleasantly surprised at the complement of the two.
Sure, sure. You had shared that you felt that Styx material lends itself very well to orchestration. Were there any worries that you might have had before hearing it become accompanied by such an effort? Was there any fear that it might not translate uh, to that style of musical playing?
Um, Man, I think we're all such believers in classical pieces being as every bit as bold as a rock and roll piece. That as long as our concerns, I think, were only that the people who arranged um, the charts were just doing a good job and we're up to the task, because some of the stuff changes from 4/4 to odd time, odd meter stuff, and very very quickly within one song, and there are certain pieces that will go from high intensity to very melodic and almost a halftime feel. So as long as all that was incorporated, I don't think we were so completely concerned. I know the first time we ever did this, we did make or suggest some changes be made, but it's been long enough now that we've been playing to these charts that are very, very solid, that I can't really remember what all those little augmentations were, but it's in a place now where it's rock solid.
Gotcha, gotcha. I wanted to ask if there were any other, before I switch gears, are there any other components of the tour that you wanted to discuss? Any shows you're looking forward to? Any shows that had a tremendous reception, or you had something really special that you took away from the crowd?
Um, I think we're always surprised as we do what we do. We've in the past 2 weeks, for example, we've been with Def Leppard, we've been with Kansas, we've been with 38 Special, we've been with Don Felder, who, if you want to hear Eagles music played better than the Eagles, I go see Don Felder.
Damn.
it, it,
I won't tell Joe
you know,
Walsh.
no, well, no, and I'm a huge Joe fan, so, but I'm very, very serious about that. I mean, Felder has put together an amazing. The musicians in his band are top notch, and I mean, his drummer plays with David Gilmour, and Cosby, Stills, and I mean, not just one guy in the band. Every guy in the band has got a resume that's like a just unfolds one topping the next, and so yeah, we're always surprised. We do a lot of shows on our own, but when we team up with other bands and have opening acts, or in Def Leppard's case, where we go on before them. I don't know. We love for people to play for audiences that aren't 100% Styx audiences. You know, like we love to have people discover us or be introduced through other bands or other billings, and we welcome the challenge to try and wrangle as many of those people into our camp as we can, and it's just our band is unique in that we go out and do what we do, and it seems to speak for it's its own calling card.
Sure. You had mentioned that you were that you're playing with Don Felder, and I know you've more recently played with other people like Tesla. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tesla was on the bill with Leopard, and actually we went off to do some shows, and Tesla came along with us, and they're that's a band that has just they haven't loosened their grip. You know, they just keep pounding it out and getting better and better, and that's a great band.
Let me ask you on that notion, because it's my understanding that some of these acts were through various members of the band. Some of these acts were people that were admired from afar, but they might not have necessarily been the original. Styx would like to play a show with so and so. So on that note, on playing with different acts and finding this sort of magic that the audiences really enjoy, has this opened more possibilities for Styx to play with a larger increasing amount of bands, or more of a different style of bands? Do you think this will see more of a change up in who they're playing with for live shows?
Well, that I'm not really sure. I don't know how to really answer that because it's not a huge pool to draw from.
Sure.
Of bands that are willing to do multiple bills. What we like to do, we definitely play a body of shows every year that is an evening with Styx, where we'll do an hour and say 10 minutes, do a short intermission, come back and play for another hour and 10 minutes. And that way we can dive deep into our catalog and satisfy the Styx fans that don't think they're going to hear Castle Walls or Queen of Spades or some of the Sweet Madam Blue, things that there's great pieces in the catalog, but we don't get to because we can't play long enough to get through all of the hits and get to the deep cuts that the diehard fans want to hear. So we make sure we do quite a few of those shows every year, and then in what I call the concert season, from say May all the way through September, we try to do multiple bill shows so that we can really bring people bang for their buck, because let's face it, it's gotten expensive to tour, it's gotten expensive to put on these shows, and so the ticket price is higher. And although we try to always make sure the promoter is offering a cheaper seat, whether it's in the grass seats or wherever it is, so that how many kids can go to a show that's $350? I always wonder when I see U2 and other bands charging these huge prices. I'm going, there's no one kid in that audience. How can you discover your new favorite band if you can't afford to get into the show? So that said, we can really give people at least bang for their buck by doing these multiple bill acts, and it's fun for us. It's fun to introduce different bands, audiences to each other, and it's good for rock and roll in general.
Let me ask you. You mentioned this concept that tours are getting more expensive, and I mentioned this in a lot of interviews with musicians. It seems like the middle class of musicians is sort of eroding. Is it possible that within the next decade or so, do you think it's possible that it will become too expensive to be viable for many of acts such as yourself to tour?
I suppose it could. We'll see about this next presidency, what happens.
Is that right?
I don't know. I don't know, man. I think that there'll always be a way. We'll figure out a way. This is what we do. We want to keep doing it. It used to be the recording industry. Now it's the touring industry. And so it's, for us, it's a way of life. And you know, what are we going to do? Retire and grow roses? This is what brings us satisfaction and satisfies the passions we have for music. So we'll figure something out. But it is exorbitantly expensive. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to get trucks and you know, the proper crew. We have two trucks, because if we're playing on one night in New York and the next night is in Los Angeles, obviously the trucks can't get there. So we'll do a red-eye fly out, and the second truck is on its way. You know, while we're in flight, and so due to the extremes that we do it, and a lot of bands do it, some of that may be curbed a bit, but I'm positive that you know, financially we'll still be able to do what we do.
I get you. So this is kind of like your version of a Broadway show, but less shitty. I'm sorry, that was a cheap.
Hey, I'm a fan of some Broadway.
Oh, me too.
And I come from a musical. I was kind of the black sheep in a musical theater family. I thought it was corny as hell. Wasn't a huge fan of a lot of musical theater. But my brother went on to become a star in Europe with a couple different ballet companies. He was discovered by Maurice Béjart when he was like 16, 17 years old. And you know, I have memories of being kind of thrown in. There would be a kid's role in something my dad was directing, or in local theater, and I'd have to go do the kid's role. And then I was happy when my brother was old enough to kind of take over that, because I wanted to play Little League first of all. But I had 7 or 8 piano teachers throughout my childhood, and I really didn't really invest myself until I started stealing my dad's guitar out of the closet and learning Beatles songs and Stones tunes, and then Hendrix tunes, and then the Cream, and forming my first band with my best buddy when we were like 12 or 13. And then I was a guitar player until I was probably about 14, and my bass player had left his bass at my house after a rehearsal, and I had it for the weekend, and I couldn't put it down. I was trying to play John Entwistle stuff, and that had me stumped some of it. So I was trying to figure out how he was doing what he was doing, and that became kind of my focus. And I never quit playing piano, or I never quit playing guitar, and I still do on most of the records I produce. But bass became the focal point, and was probably a wise choice, because that seems to be what I excel at, and why I've kind of continued to have the career I've had, and been fortunate enough to be here with Styx today.
Sure. Let me ask you a few more questions, if you don't mind. I'm gonna hop around. I want to make sure that I get as much out of my time with you as possible.
Yeah, man. Yeah, whatever you want.
Appreciate it. I'd actually heard, I think from your manager, that there is a good chance that there will be a Styx DVD to accompany the soundtrack of Summer Tour with Foreigner and Don Felder, possibly in fall of 2016. Is that something fans should look forward to, or should they hold off and wait until the ink is dry on that deal?
Well, if you heard it from our manager, you're hearing things before I am.
Well, I can strike that from the interview. I don't have to include that. I reached out to him and asked for talking points.
I just don't have the 411 on that. I just don't. I don't, or the 911. I don't really. I don't know.
No, that's fine. We can skip it. Let's go to something else. Let's talk about a project that you've been working on at least since 2015. It was the producing of the last recordings of rock pioneer Ronnie Montrose.
Right.
Let's discuss that.
Sure, I'd love to discuss that. Ronnie, and first of all, Ronnie was a dear friend of mine. And when Ronnie passed, I thought I was one of his close friends. Well, I soon learned that the life celebration for Ronnie, that there's a lot lot of people who felt that way. He was a special cat, man. He was incredibly gifted, talented. He kind of invented a lot of guitar riffs and little things that guitar players have been stealing for years. He was kind of a founding father of a lot of the stuff. There was Jeff Becker at Clapton, Jimmy Page, and even more coming out of England, and there weren't quite as many American gunslingers, at least in that sort of hotbed of rock and roll at that time. And Ronnie was kind of our answer to a lot of those guys. I mean, there was Leslie West, who was also way cool, and some other guys, but Rick Derringer, for example. But Ronnie and I and Eric Singer, the drummer from Kiss, went in and we cut 10 tracks. And we'd been looking for singers and could never really finalize who the right person was for what we were trying to do. So Ronnie called me and said, I've got an idea. Why don't I have a whole concept here. We'll call it 10 by 10. It'll be the 10 songs that the three of us recorded with 10 different singers. So I said, well, that sounds great, but we can't even find one singer. How are we going to find 10 singers? And he said, well, how about this? I'm going to call Sammy. I'm going to call Edgar. I'm going to call J.B. Pattison, my singer from Gamma. And we'll go from there, and we'll just keep, adding to it. So that's what we did. Eric from Mr. Big came on board. Greg Raleigh from after Ron passed, I got Ronnie was a huge fan, and Glenn called Glenn, and I said, Glenn, would you love,
Hey man, I'm sorry, you're cutting out. The phone call is cutting out. Can you hear me? Hello? Ricky, can you hear me?